Hello and welcome back, my stylish friends. Today we need hook 4.5 millimeter and very thin light yarn. I'm using my leftover yarn from Hubby from Universe Collection. This is beautiful green, and if you want to know the color, this color is number, let's see, 6, and it's called New Moon. And also I will need a little bit of color number 10, Nebula. You don't need to have exactly these colors, but I'm looking for green color and something in the brown red family. And as I joke, sometimes my life will get tangled, so let me unravel this yarn and let's start. We will be using Jasmine stitch, and Jasmine stitch is combination of the puff stitches. Because this yarn is very light, airy, and slippery, what I would do after my slip knot, I will chain one, but I will not use that chain. I will close that chain completely on the top of my slip knot. This is extra protection for my yarn to not be loose. Okay, so I chain one, and now I will make a puff stitch. I will be using 9 loops puff stitch. That means I have to yarn over and put my hook through the chain stitch 4 times. Just like that. If you need detailed instruction how to make a puff stitch, please watch my slow motion video. I believe this will help you a lot. But if you're already familiar with puff stitches, let's continue, because in this project we will be making only puff stitches and chain stitches. So I'm closing my puff stitch, and the height of my puff stitch is between 8 to 10 millimeter. This yarn is very thin and I do not want to stretch my puff stitch too much. So this will be 1 puff stitch. We will continue making the chain of puff stitches, and that will be our foundation chain, and I want to have 5 puff stitches in my foundation chain. And again, if you need detailed instruction how to make a puff stitch, please watch the slow motion video. When working puff stitches, it's very important that you count your loops and you pinch your yarn before you're closing the stitch. So we have 2, we need 3 more. And once again, we will be making Jasmine stitch, and it's also known as a flower stitch. We will be creating 6 petals flowers by connecting our puff stitches together. And we start this project like any other project when you're working Jasmine stitch in rows, but after foundation chain we will not make the regular stitch as you do in the regular Jasmine stitch row project. We will do this a little bit differently because we are not shaping square or rectangle, we are shaping triangle. So we have to remove 1 puff stitch on each side of our Christmas tree. And again, my life got tangled. So let's remove this obstacle before I can move forward. Okay, we have 5. Now, this is your foundation chain, and you will be working up. So row number 1, you make 2 puff stitches together. So you start as normal. Once you're done with the first one, you will yarn over and you move to your next space. I'm done with 1 puff stitch, so I yarn over, go to the next space in my foundation chain, and I will make puff stitch. If you're counting your loops, you should have 9 of your first one and 9 of the second one. So you should have 18 loops on your hook. Now you pinch your yarn as usual, and then you pull that yarn through all loops and go back, pick up the pinch yarn, and sometimes you have to make a little bit tighter, but that's okay. You can adjust your tension and then you're done. And this is how you make 2 puff stitches together. Now, to the end of each row, after 2 puff stitches together, you will make 3 puff stitches together. So you start again the same way by making 1 puff stitch. You will not close that puff stitch. You yarn over and move to the next space. The next space is always the space that you can have access to it. If you move now to the 3rd space, because we want to make 3 puff stitches together, you will be unable to go back to the other one. So you have to think that next space is always the space that you are able to make a stitch. And again, if you're counting your loops, you should have 9, 9, and 9. And you're closing all these loops together, making 3 puff stitches together. So beginning of each row will be 2 together, and then to the end of each row will be 3 together. Also, if you're unable to move all in the same time, I usually put my finger through the yarn so I don't lose it, my pinch yarn. It's easy to hold this way. Then I go back and I just adjust the length of the yarn in between stitches, and then I will close my stitch. Sometimes it's difficult, especially with thin yarn like that. This is very lacy yarn, and it's hard to move your hook and the pinch yarn through 3 puff stitches. So we will continue this to the end of this row. So I will show you one more time in slow motion how to make 3 puff stitches together. So again, you start as usual on the top, and I only count how many times I go inside my loop, so I'm going 4 times. Once I'm done, I will yarn over and move to my next available opening, and I make 1 puff stitch. Once I'm done, again, I do not complete that puff stitch because I want to make 3 puff stitches together. So I will go find my next space, my next available space, and that's what I will place my stitch once I make all my loops. And again, I'm using 9 loops this time. You can use only 7 if you have thicker yarn, like for example number 3 or 4. And then I will close all the loops together, going back to the pinch yarn and adjusting my tension of the stitch. And that's how you're connecting puff stitches to create the Jasmine stitch. So let's continue working this row, and then we turn, and we will repeat the same process in each row, but because we're making triangle, we're kind of removing one stitch in the beginning of the row by making only 2 puff stitches together instead of 3. So once again, 3 and closing. In the second row, you will be able to see your Jasmine stitch. Right now we have only half of the flower. We're making 4 puff stitches as a part of each flower. Puff stitch is very universal stitch, and you can use for anything. I used for hats, blankets, scarf. I'm planning to make it actually sweater too. It's very yarn eater stitch, but it looks just beautiful by creating all those petals, connecting them together. And this is our last stitch in this row, and that's how it look like. You have 5 stitches on the bottom, and now we want to use only 4 on the top because we will be making this smaller and smaller. So we start again the same way by making 2 puff stitches together. So each row will be exactly the same, only will be shorter by 1 stitch. And that's why you can create a triangle. You're shaping that triangle by removing that 1 stitch. Just like that, 2 together. And then you move to the end of the row where you will be making 3 together all the way to the end of each row. If you have any problems creating this pattern, there is a written pattern on my Etsy shop, if that will be more helpful to you, or just message me through the comments and I will try to help you create your own Christmas tree. So I'm finishing my 3 puff stitches together, and then I will show you how the Jasmine stitch look like. Because right now we are seeing this nice beautiful 6 petal flowers. That's the first Jasmine stitch that we created, and we will be creating them now going forward. We will be seeing more and more. So how I said again, if you have any problems, if you need a written pattern, there is a pattern in my Etsy shop. But also if you have just, question or like you need some guide how to make this easy for you, you can leave a question in the comment of this video, and I always try to answer all the questions. And we are almost done with row number 2. As you see, each row will be, you will be working faster because you will have less stitches to work. And this is my last stitch in this row. So once I'm completed, you can see we created 3 flowers. We have 5 stitches on the bottom, 4 stitches in the middle, and only 3 stitches on the top. So let's continue. And again, we are turning. Does not matter which way you turn. I usually go clockwise. And I'm making 2 stitches together. And I will make 3 stitches together after I complete this one. As a reminder, another important thing when making Jasmine stitch, you always start where you finish. So your first puff stitch will be always on the top of your stitch that you just finished. You don't want to go right away to the next available stitch, because by creating that first stitch, you actually creating the top of the row, and that's what you want. See, our tree is getting nice shape, and this is super fast project. I believe it's simple, but again, I do this for a long time. So I like to have other people's perspective, somebody who is new to crocheting, because the reason why I'm creating these videos is to explain why and how the stitches make, and I want people to be more independent in their project. And we have 5 beautiful Jasmine stitches here. We have only 2 stitches on the top, and we will continue to the next row. Please let me know if this was simple, if you think I should slow down a little bit more. And also, see, I make mistake too because I didn't count my loops. So that's okay. I do that all the time too. Sometimes I'm too fast, sometimes I'm not counting, and I have to remove my stitch and do it again the right way. So there is nothing wrong when you're creating art. Anything that you like to create is your own art. Take your time and make it the way you want to. And once again, we are almost to the end of this tree. And I want to show you variation how you can finish the top of the tree. If you do not have beads, you can make 1 puff stitch on the top. If you have beads that you want to use as a tree topper, you can make just 2 more stitches here together and you will be done. And I have seen only 1 puff stitch on the top, and I will make now only 2 puff stitches together to complete my tree. And my tree is completed. So let's take a look in details. We start again with 5, and then we went up. Each row has less stitches. Let's measure. Even if we have 5 stitches on each side, as you see, the bottom is a little bit shorter than the sides of the tree. And that's exactly what you want. You were creating isosceles triangle where only two sides are equal length. Now to finish the tree, if you do not have a tree topper, you can make what I'm making right now, one puff stitch on the top. Just like that. So let's pretend I'm done. Let me cut my yarn and move to the bottom of my tree. Also, let me show you what I will be using as my tree topper. I just have these beads. These beads are very like shiny, which I like, but also have very big hole, so I can put my needle through very easily. So we will attach the beads later, but let's move to our different color yarn to make a bottom of the tree. So we will be making little tree trunk visible on the bottom of the tree. And I will show you two different variations as well. Does not matter which side you choose, because Jasmine stitch is beautiful stitch that looks exactly identical on each side. So I have to find the middle of my tree. So I will use the third stitch from either side. I will attach my yarn, and let me show you how you can make this. Once you attach your yarn to the tree, just like that, you will make a puff stitch in that same stitch first, and we're using the same amount of loops, so you make just one puff stitch. Now you will not make the stitch on the top of your stitch, but you will go make that stitch around the next stitch. So you're kind of going in between stitches, and then you want to make one more stitch, which will be in the next available space. So that's the one variation. And if this one is easy for you, use this one. That's how it looks. But I want to show you also different variation. Once you make that puff stitch, the first puff stitch, what you will do, you will go on the bottom of the same stitch, and then you move to the next stitch. And then you close these two stitches together. So you're not going around the stitch. And then you make one more puff stitch, single one. So when you look at this way, you have one puff stitch on each side, and in the middle you have two puff stitches connected together. But how I said, there's no right and wrong way. Use the one that you like the most, which one is the easiest for you. So let me cut my yarn and hide all the ends, because I like the way my tree look like now. And then if you need instruction how to hide the ends, there are videos on my channel already showing in slow motion how to do that. As you see, I'm reversing the way my yarn is hidden, and I make sure that my stitches are not too tight. Of course, you have to hide every single one, and the easiest way is to always work the same yarn color when you have different color yarn. And there is a nice video on my channel actually showing you how to hide the ends when you have multiple color of yarn. All right, so let's hide one more and then we move back to the top, and I will show you how I finish the top of the tree. But again, this is all optional because you are creating your own tree. So if you like something different, that's completely fine. That will be your project and your art. So whatever you created, you should be proud of, because creating art is not only relaxing, but it's very fulfilling, I think. Okay, so one option, how I said, you can leave the tree as it is. You can add the tree topper on the top if you want to. But if I use the tree topper bead, I actually will remove that last puff stitch. I want this tree to be a little bit shorter. So let me remove this last puff stitch. And it's very easy to remove as well. Just remember to connect this last stitch to tie it so you don't lose everything, just like that. And this is my tree topper, so let's connect. I will take my yarn and make a chain of stitches. Make as long as short as you need. If I will be working with thicker yarn, I will probably not use the chain for this part of the tree, but because this is number 1 yarn, it's very thin, I need to have some more volume in the loop that will be connected to the real Christmas tree. So I will just make a chain of stitches, and I will put those stitches through my bean and connect to the tree. Once you're happy with the length of your chain, cut the yarn, connect the last stitch, making sure it will not unravel, and take those ends through the needle, and then go through your bean, your tree topper. As you see, slide very easily. Now I will remove one tail and connect to my Christmas tree, first by making a knot, and then also I will hide my ends. Once I hide my ends, the connection will be very secure. So what did you think about this project? Let me know if it was easy for you or you have some challenges. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up and follow for more. Thank you for crocheting with me today. I hope you enjoyed this project as I did. Let me know if you learned something new and if this information was helpful. Thank you for crocheting with me today, and I hope I will see you next time.